Hi, welcome to the American Academy of Optometry Foundation Clinical Podcast Series. I'm your host, Kim Duong, and today's topic is assessing the utility of ChatGPT as an artificial intelligence large language model for information to answer questions on myopia. Today's topical expert joining me now is Dr. Elizabeth Hoppe.
Hello, I'm so happy to be with you today.
Can you please share with us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a person who's been in an academic career path, and I'm currently the founding dean of Western University of Health Sciences College of Optometry. And for my academy sections, I'm a diplomate from the Public Health and Environmental Vision section. So we'll definitely have that public health twist on our conversation today. I've also been active in the optometric education section and working on their diplomate committee. So we'll be able to incorporate a little bit of experience in the education realm as well.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here today. So today's topic is a very hot topic. I've used Chat GPT before, and it's really amazing how, artificial intelligence has transformed how we receive information. Dr. Hoppe, for our viewers at home who may not be aware of this technology, can you tell us a little bit about, Chat GPT and AI?
Mm. I love the experience that I'm having. And I think that I'm continuing to learn more and more. So let's go back a little bit to understand what is Chat GPT all about. So it's a chat bot that uses artificial intelligence to generate human-like text responses to questions and word prompts. Now we have to realize what Chat GPT is all about is synthesizing language from a lot of different sources. It's not actually what a lot of people might think about in terms of an intelligence per se, that it's not analyzing, it's not generating, it's not thinking, it's just kind of synthesizing different sources. Now, it's a large language model and it recognizes patterns in words and it follows examples based on languages that have been pulled from web pages. They used Reddit and other similar websites to build it, internet-based collections of published books, published papers that have come out in journals, Wikipedia, and chat sessions with human users. And it's continuing to learn from the users today. So everything that we're putting into the chat GPT in terms of the queries or our way of interacting with it is continuing to build that database. So we'll talk a little bit more about how we might use it and what it's good for. But I think we have to remember it's really designed for language, written language. So let's talk a little bit about the paper.
Exciting. Yeah. So the article examined, the utility of Chat GPT in answering questions, regarding myopia. Myopia is a hot topic also, right? What are the key findings of this article?
So I think the purpose of this was really to check out what would a patient find out if they use ChatGPT. So for years, we've known that patients like to Google their symptoms, they like to Google their health conditions, they like to Google their diagnoses, and sometimes they do it right in the chair, right in front of you, where they start going on their phone Googling what you just told them. So I think the question behind this is, will AI change either the patient behavior or the information that they find? So what the researchers did was pretty ingenious. They categorized 9 different things related to myopia. And they generated 11 questions out of these 9 topics. So the categories they looked at was a general summary, cause of myopia, symptoms, onset, prevention, complications, natural history, treatment, and prognosis. And they concentrated a little bit more with 3 questions on treatment, but everything else had 1 question related to it. And they asked in each of the different categories, they asked the question 5 times and they did it in different chat sessions. So it would not be influenced at all. So they asked it 5 times. And then they had 5 reviewers to look at the information that was provided. And the 5 reviewers were optometry faculty members, teaching staff, researchers, and they had them look at both the accuracy and the quality of the responses. And they had them rated on a scale of 1 to 5. And 5 was considered to be very good, and 1 was considered to be very poor. So the combination of 5 questions, 5 times 11 different categories of questions and 5 reviewers generated 275 responses. And then they looked at those ratings and they looked at all of the statistics. They looked at the agreement, they looked at the reliability, they looked at the accuracy to really evaluate both the people who were evaluating to make sure it was consistent, and then what were some of the responses coming out of ChatGPT. So it was very interesting, this strategy that they looked at the quality overall.
Yeah, so what was the overall consensus of the article? Do you think that ChatGPT is a good mechanism to answer questions regarding myopia?
So what they found is the quality of information overall was rated as good. So that's a score of 4, was rated as good, except for one area, which was prevention. And the questions related to prevention were rated as acceptable. The evaluators had the most variation in their rating scores in the question, which is the single most successful treatment strategy for myopia? So they thought there was the most variation in that. But what I also enjoyed in this article is they gave some critiques, and then they also gave examples of inaccuracies that we know from other examples that ChatGPT can actually make up information. So on the critique side, they said that the responses were too focused on myopia correction and not as much on the topic of slowing the progression of myopia. And we know that is really current. That's what's going on in the field of myopia. They also said that the information about myopia prevention advice was not specific and it was not evidence-based. Now, I think that's an important point, that honestly, we should not expect ChatGPT to be evidence-based, because it's not doing an evidence-based analysis. It's just doing a synthesis of the information that exists. They also said there was an overemphasis on genetics and near work, and they didn't incorporate the need for axial length measurement. So again, it's not a science-based approach. It's looking at all of the language that's out there. Now, the inaccuracies I thought were kind of funny. So this one I thought was very interesting, that when it came to the causes of myopia, ChatGPT said computer video games, eye strain, fatigue, and injury caused myopia. I thought, what the heck? Where did that come from? They also linked vitamin D and other nutrients with myopia, which was really interesting. They confused digital eye strain and myopia, and they recommended that 20-20-20 rule to avoid myopia. So they really could not separate out the language related to digital eye strain. The other prevention recommendations I thought were kind of humorous were eating a balanced diet. Wouldn't it be great if we could just prevent myopia by eating a balanced diet? Cleaning your contact lenses, they identified, would also help prevent myopia, which again would be phenomenal.
Right.
Avoiding rubbing your eyes, sleeping, and exercising regularly. So that was very interesting that ChatGPT thought all of those things would help prevent myopia. And then the other one was 2 hours of outdoor activity every day. So in the critique, they pointed out, yes, there has been an association with outdoor activity, time spent outdoors, and reduction or prevention of myopia. However, the magnitude of the time needed to be spent outdoors was not on a daily basis, and it certainly was not up to 2 hours per day. So I thought that was really interesting as well.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the point in the beginning of our talk where you mentioned that it's just synthesizing information. So perhaps, the diet and the cleaning contact lens happen to be on the same web page, and it's just their way of synthesizing things.
Exactly. So it really doesn't have a quality filter on, and it really doesn't have an evidence-based approach to it. So when they looked at all of those 275 responses that came out, they said about a quarter, so 24% of the responses were rated as very good. So that was interesting. So very good, very high quality. 49% were in the good category. So the majority definitely were there. 22% were rated as acceptable. 3.6% were poor and 1.8% were very poor. So I think that's an interesting distribution to say you could get anything, at kind of any point in time with that.
Yeah, and I think when I was reading it, one of the critiques that you mentioned was that, some of the treatments were non-specific. And I almost was glad that it's non-specific because I'm hoping that they're coming to their eye care provider to seek, these different treatments and to have the discussion.
Mhm. So I think the authors did a good job of identifying the limitations and really reminding us, what is Chat GPT all about? And they said that Chat GPT is limited by uh, about five different things. And they said that it has an inability to critically appraise or analyze results from the literature. So it does not have a framework or evidence-based approach. They pointed out that at the time they did this research, the knowledge database was limited until 2021. Has not been updated. And so going to the actual foundational knowledge, we know a lot has happened when it comes to myopia since 2021. They also said ChatGPT will misinterpret medical terminology. Again, that may be limitation of the source, that it's not designed to use a medical vocabulary. And they said that there's a lack of scientific accuracy and reliability, which could be biasing the information that the users will receive. So I think when it comes down to it, we know that patients were just using Google before. Um, and perhaps the danger will be that if they overestimate the accuracy and quality of ChatGPT. So I think they're going to do it for sure. And I think that we need to be cautioning them to say it really it's interesting, it's fun, you can get some information, but really you need to bring that information for validation to your eye care provider. The
Right.
other thing that they think is really fun for us to think about is how might we wind up using some form of artificial intelligence in our future practice. And I think ChatGPT being language based is very, very different from what we're all hoping for in terms of image analysis, in terms of interpreting progression, in terms of being able to identify and interpret subtle findings down the road for systemic health. So Alzheimer's, really any neurological, Parkinson's, anything of that nature, and of course, diabetes and vascular conditions, I think is where we're moving towards with the clinical applications above and beyond with a true artificial intelligence. But I actually use ChatGPT on a fairly regular basis. Do you use it too, Dr. Duong?
I actually do. And, I think I use it just for fun out of curiosity. I mean, the other day, I shared with you that I'm getting married soon. And so I thought it would be fun for, Chat GPT to write my wedding vows. I mean, of course, I'm not using it, but I'm just curious on,
Mhm.
how it synthesizes information. So I feel like my fiance and I use it more as like a, let's see, what's out there and, how smart the technology is. But
So what I use ChatGPT for is an editing function. And so I will write kind of my first draft of whatever. And a lot of times it might be a letter, it might be a report, it might be I need to persuade about something, a policy draft, whatever it would be. And then I'll use ChatGPT to edit what I wrote. And then I'll take the result of that and edit it a little bit further.
yeah.
But one of the things I did without a draft first is I asked ChatGPT, write a policy about the use of artificial intelligence in an optometric educational setting. And I wanted to see, just what it would come up with. And it was interesting, and it wrote a very general policy that it's like you couldn't disagree with what it said, but it just wasn't specific enough and detailed enough to really make it a useful policy.
Right. And it's only, taking information of what's out there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think that there is this fear out there that technology is potentially taking over, but I've always kind of been pro technology because I think that there is, a role in enhancing our clinical practice if used correctly, of course. So, can you think of ways that clinicians can use AI in their practice to help educate patients about myopia?
So I'm on the same page that I think technology is going to be an extender, and help and enhance our current practice modality and make things better and more efficient. Now, the authors of the paper thought that maybe ChatGTP could be used for patient education, but I'm a little bit gun shy about it. And I think there are actually better existing resources that we can use for patient education right now. What I think ChatGPT could potentially be used for is, let's say you have a practice website and you want to introduce the doctors in the practice, and you may coach it a little bit, and you might come up with some nice biographies for your practice that way. Let's say you want to do a newsletter out to your patients. I think it could be helpful and useful for a newsletter communication. And again, Chat GPT is really about written communication. It's not about analysis or any of the diagnostic capabilities. So I think that's a completely different aspect related to AI. The authors of the paper thought that because a lot of patients now are emailing with practitioners, that maybe this could be used as a first draft response to email. And that might help with efficiency, but I would be very nervous about not having some type of oversight about what did ChatGPT actually write in response. Now, the other stuff about the imaging, I'm very enthusiastic and very excited about, but I'll tell you, it's a double-edged sword. So I went for a dental appointment 2 days after my dentist incorporated AI into her imaging technology. And it was amazing of what she could come up with in terms of all of the different aspects of what was going on with my oral health. But the aspect that I was disappointed is like she found so much wrong. And I was like, "Oh, no, this is terrible to see so much, negative impact here at my oral health." But she said, "Oh, no, 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 this is good, because we're gonna be able to do additional care, additional preventive care that they would not have known from a standard X-ray and visual interpretation of the X-rays." So it was a very interesting experience, and I can't wait for optometry to be able to embrace, some of these great things coming down the road.
Yeah, and you're completely right. I mean, I think that AI has that role to potentially shift our healthcare system from, reactive to more preventative by picking up
Yes.
subtle changes in our eyes or in our teeth. So it'll be
Yep.
very interesting.
The early detection and early treatment, I think I'm very excited about, especially as the eye related to systemic health indicators.
Yeah. Do you have any additional closing thoughts for us?
I would say keep current with what's happening in the AI world because it is going to be changing very, very rapidly. It's definitely a period of exponential growth rather than incremental growth. And I think it's going to be truly transformative. So let's keep current. Let's watch what happens next. And I can't wait to find out.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Hoppe, to discuss about AI's role in eye care. And thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.